No Game, No Life, Volume 7, Theoretical Start, Part 2. I have heard your claims. It remaineth for you to prove them, however. But it was not the shrine maiden herself who moved her lips to form words. It was the source of the force storm which reached beyond the shrine. No, beyond Kanagari, beyond even the sea, reached to encompass not only the Eastern Union, but even Elkia. The ruse the shrine maiden had taken into her body in her young days, the ether. Through the body of the shrine maiden, now a puppet, the one who controlled this will spoke. O mortals, who await all but certain death, I struggle to grasp your eagerness to die sooner. The shrine maiden, housing in her body an old dais, saw through clouded consciousness the figures lined up. The 7 shadows eager to die, according to the god whom they challenged to a game. Roll call. Number 1, Sora, Virgin, 18. I shall present you with the awesome answer that I am eager to live. The young raven-haired man, Sora, shouted jauntily, curving his mouth into a smile. With a hand raised to his face as if the divine maelstrom before him were just a annoying breeze, he laughed and continued. I get to play with a god, man. I'd fail as a gamer if I missed this chance. Number 2, Shiro, 11. We don't have time to wait this time. His little sister, Shiro, her long white hair disheveled, took her turn with half-closed eyes, as if she'd given up. What? Number 3, Stephanie Dola. I don't want to die. I am firmly opposed. Number 4, Jabril, the humble slave of Lord Sora and Shiro. I am heartbroken to the point of tears that you would overlook me as the only immortal among us. So I command you to make amends. While their dear frame of sensibility, the Humanity Girl Steph, shrieked piously with tears, the frugal girl Jabril interrupted her with an ominous smile toward her god. Number 5, Plum. Renowned for my lack of presence, I will stay out of this and leave it to you guys. Next to answer was the Dampier girl, boy, Plum, his pretty troubled face plastered with a smile parched by resignation, followed by, Number 6, please, Izuna, The flustered werebeast girl, Izuna Hatsutse, tried to follow up, but her head was pressed down by the aging werebeast man, Ino Hatsutse, who knelt beside her. Please put your mind at ease, O holy shrine maiden. Lowering his head, not to the old dais, but to the sealed shrine maiden, he said, While the sponge seems by no means worthy of trust, I therefore ask that you leave this to us.
We'll totally kick that stuck-up god's ass. We'll beat them, please.
Izuna mimicked her grandfather's penchant for smoothing things over, though her will to fight was still clearly present. These 7, devoid of dignity and remote from reliability, each with their own bulky luggage, all different in age, race, and sex, stepping up recklessly to challenge the god, they were fools you couldn't help but love. To overturn the conventions of absolute truth built on the rules of the one true God. Not as prayers, but as players. Feeling a sense of affection from this truth, the shrine maiden formed a smirk upon her consciousness. But at the same time, she thought, she would not yet understand. Then swear ye, with your words at your deaths into this foolish game. As the old days pressed them calmly to declare the oath that would lead them to their doom, however. Oh, before that, one thing. Sora spoke up in a nonchalant manner that was quite out of place, interrupting the group raising their hands to swear at the start of the game, and asked, Pardon me, but you still haven't told us your name, have you? How is that any concern to such baseless creatures as yourselves? Huh? Isn't it like the very minimum of manners to at least learn someone's name before you pwn them? The atmosphere creaked from the shock. Everyone, even the Fluga Jabril, winced at the god's displeasure. The shrine maiden couldn't hold back her laughter. It had already been over half a century since she'd taken the ether into her body. In that time, had she ever shown displeasure so openly? Much less. Wait. Did I say something especially bad? With the casual banter of puny humanity, one who lacked any innate sense of self-awareness. Brother, it's fine. You didn't say anything special. Right? I mean, it's not like I... Shiro signaled a thumbs up to the flabbergasted Sora. You just piss people off. Just by breathing. Indeed, my master is wise. To make the god explode, what a revelation! The proof that even a god wants your ass kicked. Now that takes talent. Why don't we just forget about playing the game and just trash talk the god to death? Sounds like something you could do, King Sora.
Sora, you're so badass, please.
You damn monkey. Do you have some kind of disease that kills you if you act serious for even a second? In her clouded consciousness, the shrine maiden secretly smiled at the rowdy group. At the same time, her thoughts threatened to cut out at any moment. But she saw, her sight aligned with that of the god who began building the board, not even waiting for the oath. The shrine. The skyscrapers of the capital spread out around it, and then the cities of the islands of the Eastern Union. Looking down at the country she'd spent her life building, she thought. Back then, the nameless golden fox girl had dreamed of that nation she'd built, endlessly breaking one convention after the other, never seeking the next. But that child was no longer within her. The girl who had ended up an adult, the shrine maiden had one day realized. The breaking of convention had a clear end. A game that had been thoroughly studied would end just like a game of tic-tac-toe in that the first to move would always win. No matter how a piece might struggle, it could never fly off the board. Players and prayers. This world, however far you went, was a board on which players played with prayers as their pieces. That was the one convention that could never be changed. The ruse the girl created in her youth had proved it. And yet, the shrine maiden who resigned herself to this in disillusionment looked down and once again became aware of the shrine garden, where she saw a sight that had never appeared even in the dreams of the girl she was back then. A manatee, flugel, dampier, werebeast. In times of yore, they had killed each other with arms yet today hated and fought one another through games. But now representatives of these races, different in power, in lifespan, even in manner of existence, were coming together and laughing. Not only that, but though their intents might differ, their goal was the same. Together in the mad folly of challenging an old deus in peace. All right, are you really good and ready? Whether from rage or from concentrating on the cosmic act of creation, the god had momentarily losing control over the shrine maiden's body, and a question emerged from her mouth. Will you take my error, take the mistake I committed back then, and correct it? The shrine maiden slowly raised her hand into the air, when she lightly turned over the pale arm, on her palm, resting a shining pawn. It was unmistakably a race piece, the werebeast piece. Correct the mistake I made that day. Pay the tab I've piled up since then. Until I'm able to do that, I have no right to smile cheerfully with them. But if I could do that, then this time. If you do so, The Eastern Union, the werebeast, will walk with you. Still in turmoil and anguish, the Shrine Maiden made this declaration. And yet... Quite frankly, I don't know what kind of mistake you made that's got you so serious. That man suspected of a malady that proved fatal if he ever became earnest, added pompously. If you're looking for something to correct, why don't you start with your mistake of getting serious with us? Sora, who was challenging the very old deist who amounted to all creation, shouted a serious rebuke. The siblings, ignorant of the Shrine Maiden's anxiety and turmoil, perhaps well aware of it, said, with their eyes gleaming with anticipation, "We're so lucky. We've been blessed with the chance to play against a god with these dudes. And when we play to win. Therefore..." Of course. Yeah, totally, naturally, and inevitably. We're gonna get the Eastern Union and the old days and every damn thing that comes with. That's it. No more or less. Simple, right? Their faces were full of childlike emotion, as if to say, "Gee, grown-ups sure do make things complicated." Something no longer reflected in the Shrine Maiden's eyes was without a doubt alive in theirs. Let's skip all the boring stuff. This world we're in, it's a game, right? Their two pairs of eyes shone with intense determination, merely in sheer glee. All you're doing is competing to see who can be the biggest self-important asshat, right? If that's so, there's no way we're gonna lose. If we're playing for the title of biggest asshat, I see no reason we should lose to gods. The game was that simple. Players and pieces, just challenging and being challenged, and reflecting on things later. Players and prayers, just deciding what they wanted to be. If a thoroughly studied game ended just like a game of tic-tac-toe did, where the first move would always win, and it was time to start the game to determine who would move first. With a single, clear, logical weapon, they cast away the Shrine Maiden's crafty despair, watching the excitement grow among everyone gathered there, praising an end that would never end. I hate to admit it, but perhaps I'm getting long in the tooth. The Shrine Maiden joked and suddenly thought, that simple world, so clearly reflected in Sora and Shira's eyes, that which I was unable to see in my youth. Perhaps back then I couldn't see that world, one that only children are allowed to see. What if, just as these two said, the world really was that simple? And what if everyone else was making it complicated? All right, go ahead. Her words flew out of her mouth with a grin, and the god-challenging fools each formed their own smiles in turn. The game they had hoped for, anticipated, so plain and simple. The game that would decide who was the greatest of asshats. Come, let the game begin! The Shrine Maiden tossed up the werebeast piece while Sora shouted with glee. The beasts sailed higher and higher above their heads, thrown as if to reach the old days, whirling in the distant heavens. Everyone once more raised their arms to stab open the narrow garden. Ascent! What echoed was a clamor of the oath to begin a game that was absolutely binding under the Ten Covenants, a signal that they would submit to the rules set by the lying one true God, who boasted that the world had changed. In that instant, the writhing built-up divine force burst, her consciousness tossed idly by the raging power that surged like a tsunami. The Shrine Maiden thought. Nothing in the world has changed. That's how she felt as a young girl. In that case, I'll change things myself, she had hoped. This was her dream. The Shrine Maiden immersed herself in that dream once more, having grown older and eventually awakening from that youthful reverie. When they were able to beat it, this game, the old Deus, her, and prove it, then the world would change again. And when that time came, yes, she would accept it. That the words of he who had bestowed the covenants long, long ago at the end of the Great War were no lie. That the world could change and be changed, and surely it had. So, this is not time for apologies yet, Mr. One True God. Were you just a liar? Was I just daft? When the answer comes, I'll be ready to apologize. Just a little. After cutting into you as a liar so many times, sure, I'll drop on my bad and even stick my tongue out. Leaving behind this hope and sarcasm, the Shrine Maiden's consciousness was washed beyond the light. The entire world witnessed this phenomenon. The force originating from an island floating in the sea and of the far east was a recreation. Accomplished in the blink of an eye, strangely, it was even witnessed from the other side of the planet, as if the warped globe could not but let its cry be known to all of heaven and earth. The dark light was shattered, and the light of day was pierced. The brazen, absurd, outrageous phenomenon rocked the very planet. The force turned to a wave, and the wave into matter, and from it emerged defined concepts. Upon this microcosm of the opening of the cosmos, this reproduction of the creation, the earth arose in the sky. The land appearing above folded and twisted until it formed a single spiral. Spinning like a whirlpool, ascending like a pagoda, reaching to the very moon, a corridor of heaven. Even if one did not understand what was going on, it was enough to make one tremble by instinct. For those unfortunate souls who did understand, reason forced shivering to their knees. What entity could, against all logic, perform such a miracle? The question was etched into their blood, their beings, their souls, still unfaded after eternity, their memory. They were told by the vestiges of that which had once created the heavens and shattered the earth, defied all things, their memory. Therefore, that day, all those who witnessed this phenomenon could do nothing but pray. Oh, God. Meanwhile, at the end of the earth, at the peak of a giant chess piece, the one true God who reigned over all the world, Tet. Phew! Phew! This isn't my doing. I'm just being talked about a lot. He was holding a trash can full of tissues while blowing his red nose, acting out a scene unnecessary for his divine personage, runny nose, and complaints. After calling me a liar so many times, now they're ruining my reputation. Come on! You're gonna make me cry. Ted flapped his legs discontentedly and gazed upon it. The new land created in the sky, the heavenly continent stretching over such a scale as to cover the land from the Eastern Union through Alkia. It was a vast game board, assembled for a time by an old deus, but... This might be a bit unexpected. You really like to make things flashy, don't ya? Yes, even for an old deus, this was an excessive show of power. Tet muttered. No. Question. Be this outcome thy artifice, holder of the Suniaster? A voice echoing from the void called out. To speak to the one true God was extremely difficult, even with the power of an old deus. I'm not on anyone's side. How many times do I have to tell you? Phew! But please answer when I speak to you. Tet compelled brazenly, yet with a casual smile, as he threw yet another tissue into the bin. False. It is thou who hast called them from another world. Reveal thou thy meaning in entering the fray. If this was a game in which the old day struggled for the race pieces to win the right to challenge the one true God, then what meaning could there be in the one true God himself joining the battle? The voice asked, but Tet smirked. There was no deceit. If he had to name it, all he had was hope.
Why don't you say it means I want to see you guys howling faces, since you're the ones ruining my game with that misunderstanding?
Contrary to his childish answer, Ted's bare-faced true motivation was hope. But the voice of the old days resounding from the void only continued placidly. If such convergence be, it should be known of the Sunniaster.
Can't you put it in easier terms? Like, you want to see my face, see the future?
Chuckling at this, Tat raised a hand aloft.
I don't mean to brag, but unlike you guys, I have good taste.
Floating in his hand was the evidence of the one true God.
At least I have a no spoilers policy, you know?
The Sunniaster, the conceptual device that granted absolute rule, the vessel of omnipotence. All the power existing in the universe barely amounted to a drop that had slipped from this vessel. Tat, who held free reign over it, neither time nor metaphysical causes held sway by now. Creation and destruction, the past and the future, observation and determination, all lay in his hands. It would be simple for him to see the future in which the faces of the old day had howled, or even created, but
where's the fun in cheating like that? Does any good come of seeing the future?
Though not to the extent as Tat, who possessed the Sunniaster, in old days should have been capable of seeing some way into the future. Tat chuckled sarcastically.
I only look at the past.
With this mumble, he erased a trash can and produced a book and a quill. The book, bound and scribed by the god, was still filled with mostly white pages.
That's what makes it exciting, filling in the result of the game.
And so lay the future anticipated by the god who refused omniscience, an account of a myth even the god knew not, a tale that did not yet exist. At the silence elicited purely of that intent to reach the end, Tet let slip a chuckle. There was no way she would take his words seriously. Her ether, her quintessence, would never allow it. Are such trifles thy reason for summoning me?
Yeah. Teasing and provoking you was just a bonus. But here's the real reason.
With a titter, Tet pointed to a blank page.
Even the Sunniaster doesn't know your name, so can you tell me? 'Cause I need to write it.
Estet smiled, seemingly unaware that even his real reason was trolling, perhaps because he refused omniscience. Pfft. The line dropped, leaving an unpleasant crack of air.
Oh man, she rage quit. You kind of fail as a gamer, you know?
Ted sighed and slid his quill among his pages. Some think this world is simple, easily understood by a child. Some think the world is complex, eternally denying meaning. Some think the world has not changed and never will change. And some think the world keeps changing and is about to change. Past and present, humans, machines, beasts, and gods. All wondered which, in the end, was true. Could it be? Tet lowered his face and, as if to give the answer to everything, as if to plead to the facts that all doubted that they weren't lies, pondered alone.
That day, long, long ago, the world really did change. With the Sunniaster in hand, the god of games, I really did change it. Heaven and earth to a game board, laws to rules. I really did change it. But though I might change heaven and earth, there are things that won't change. Things I mustn't change. I can't change the players of the game. Them I mustn't change. Just as their will, the old myth, took life in me, in the Suniaster, and changed the world. These players, too, must want to change. You'll change it, right? You'll overturn everything and come here, right? Their will, the new myth, would now change everything, down to the players. Undoubtedly, with methods intrusive, troublesome, uncalled for, they'd drag around everything, like the worst little brats, cornering everyone to the point where they would have no choice but to change. That would be when, at last, the game would truly begin. Waiting for that moment when he'd surely be able to write that the most fun since the creation had finally begun. Past tense. Had sat down cross-legged. And I can't wait to call you by your name next time I see you. The only one in the world who knew she who warped the world before their eyes, the ether residing in the shrine maiden. To see you make such a face, as the very one who created that thoughtful machine. But he swallowed his next words, and forced a smile. He peered deep into the giant game board, built by rocking heaven and earth, and gazed intently so as not to miss a single move at those ascending to a new myth. If you're gonna watch a game, you always ought to cheer. It's great to root for your favorite players, but there's something to be said for an unexpected upset. Who should I cheer for? Wondered the one true God. But presently he lifted his face as if to embody the essence of the world he had created with his hands. Go everyone! I'm cheering for pretty much all of you. He tossed out an extremely lazy and convenient cry of support.